Hey guys, Sean here. I've been interested lately in looking at some different companies' stocks and whether to buy, sell, or hold them. I do have a sales background, but some finance education, so just going to perform some discounted cash flows on a few different companies to work on my own skills, help make some investing decisions, and potentially get some feedback on how to perform better analysis. I have a pretty limited experience doing this, but I find it pretty interesting, so hopefully some of you will find it useful. Today I'm looking at Nvidia stock. First, I'm going to look backwards 5 years and then project out 10 years into the future. Ultimately use these numbers to make a buy, sell, or hold decision. Obviously, there are a lot of other factors that go into this, but I'm just going to be looking at the numbers. Since it is Nvidia, I have a feeling I know what decision we're going to get, but let's jump into it.
Okay, first things first here. So we have our model that I've built in Excel. We're basically going to look at the past 5 years financial statements. So we have 2021 through 2025 here. And then we're going to project out the next 3 years on this page. Then on the next page, we're going to go 10 years into the future. But we're essentially going to use this information to project out those years and come up with that buy, sell, or hold decision. I'll just walk through each year's financial statements according to how NVIDIA has laid out theirs, and we're just going to type in some numbers. So first thing we're going to do, just come to Google here and we're going to search for NVIDIA's financial statements. So NVIDIA's 10K, we're going to pull up the years that we're looking for. So the past 5 years, we will do the annual filings and we'll start with 2021. So we'll pull that one up, 2022, 2023, 24, and 25. All right, so getting into some of the numbers here, you can always skip ahead to the end if you just want the decision or if this part's boring to you. I actually find it pretty interesting, so I'm going to go ahead and go through these numbers here. So you can see here, I've basically broken down my revenues, operating income, different parts of the spreadsheet into the same ways that NVIDIA has, just to make it a bit easier. So I found these on their income statement. And so we're just going to look through these. So I have 21 pulled up here, but you'll notice it has the trailing 2, sometimes 3 years. So I'll actually start on this page. So we have 21, graphics being one of their products, and then compute and networking is the other category. So starting with 2021, we're going to put in here 9834, and compute and networking is 6841. 2022, 15868, and 11046. Moving along, we have 2023. This will put us at 15068, and 11906. And then 2024 puts us at 47405 and 13517. Finally, 2025, we're looking at 116,193 and 14,304. So that gives us our total revenues. And you'll see here as well, we projected out the following 3 years simply by looking at the previous year and then adding the percent of sales expressed as a percentage. And so we'll get to that later as we fill in more of those boxes. Alrighty, moving right along, we are going to look at our gross profit, which is going to be our revenues minus our cost of revenues. So we have here, you can see the trailing 3 years. So I'm actually going to go to this third page so we can see 2023, 22, and 21, just make it a bit easier. So 2021 cost of revenue puts us at 6279. 22 is going to be 9439, and then 23 is going to put us at 11618. Moving ahead to 2025 and 4, so we're going to have here 16621 and 32639. So you can see our gross profit there. Moving along down to the operating expenses, so we will come back to research and development, sales, general, and administrative, and that will give us our total operating expenses, ultimately leading us to our operating income. So going to start here with research and development for 2021. That will put us here at 39.24. 22 is 52.68, and 23 7,339. 2024 is going to put us at 8675, followed by 12,914. All right, moving back to SG&A. So this is going to give us these numbers here: 1940, 2166, and 2440. And then make sure we got the right numbers here: 2654, 3491. And finally, moving back once more to the total operating expenses, which are shown here, but I believe we can just do a little formula here to sum, and that 5864 hopefully matches right here, which it does. So we can just drag this formula across, and there we go. So that'll give us our operating income. Next, to calculate the net income, so back to this third sheet here showing 2023, 22, and 21. So we're going to start with the interest income and come all the way down to the income tax expense. So we're going to pull these numbers. So starting with the interest income, 2021 is 57, negative 184, 4, negative 123, 4409, and 77. Coming back up here for 2022, we have 29, negative 236, 107, negative 100, 9941, and 189. Back up once more to 267, negative 262, 48, negative 48, negative 43, 4181, and negative 187. And then the final 2 years, same boxes here, but we've already done 2023, so we'll start here in 2024. So that'll put us at 32. Just kidding, that's right above there. So we're going to start at 866, negative 257, 237, 846, 33818, and 4058. Onto the final row here, 81, 4, 5. Nope, made the same mistake again. So this is actually going to be 1786, negative 247, 1034, 2573, 84026, and finally 11146. So that will give us our net income, which of course is income before income tax minus income tax expense, which gives us our operating margin, which of course is our operating income divided by total revenues. Okay, just about halfway through this page here, we have some of the earnings per share, shares outstanding, and then we'll get into the statement of cash flows and balance sheet. So coming back up to earnings per share, we have that right down here. So we're going to start with 2021. It's going to put us at 1.76 and 1.73, 3.91, and 3.85, and then 1.76 and 1.74. Coming to 2024 and 2025, 1.21, 1.19, and 2.97, 2.94. Coming back to this third page once again, we're going to look at the shares outstanding. So we have that here starting in 2021, 2467, 2510, 2496, 2535, 2487, and 2507. Once again, onto this fifth page. Looks like these are formatted a little differently, so we're going to use the same format to make sure we don't mess our numbers up. 2494, and then 2455, and 2480. And you know we need to have our formatting consistent, so let's get that taken care of. There we go. And so all of these will basically give us the expense as a percentage of sales. So this is going to be used a lot more on the next page, but you can basically just see each of these line items and how much of sales they make up. So we'll get more into that on the next tab here when we're doing our discounted cash flow analysis. But for now, we can move down to the statement of cash flows. So looking at depreciation and amortization, we are going to look at 2021, 22, and 23 here. So we have this row. We're going to do 1098, 1174, and 1544. And then same thing here, starting with 2024, 1508 and 1864. And again, we're getting the percentage of sales for all of these, which we will use more on the next page. Finishing things off here on this page, we're going to look at our property and equipment. So for 2021, we have 2149. In 2022, we have 2778, 2023, 3807, and then 2024, 3914, and 6283. Accounts receivable, first off, is 2021 will put us at 2429. Receivable here, 4650, 3827, 9999, and then 23065. Inventories starting in 2021, 1826, 2605, 5159, and 5282, 10080. Finally, last one for this page, accounts payable. 2021 is going to put us at 1201, 1783, 1193, 2699, and 6310. Now what's important to notice is down here at the bottom, the reason we did this is just to get the changes in working capital. So you can see this formula to calculate these. You're essentially adding the previous year's receivables, inventory, and then the current year's payables to the previous year's. So essentially with each of those, you can just get the changes in working capital. And now moving along to the discounted cash flow page, essentially these 3 years are what we projected on this financials page. So a lot of these are just going to be referencing the previous page and then projecting out the future 10 years. We're essentially just taking a little formula here of the previous year and then adding the growth rate, which we've determined up here. Essentially just used 5.5% as the terminal free cash flow growth rate because it's kind of industry average. I know Nvidia is a bit above the industry average, but we've seen some crazy growth. So just kind of picked an average number for that. And so with each of these, I'm basically referencing the previous page and then doing a similar calculation to project out the future 10 years. So what we really want to do here is essentially projecting out these 10 years. We can come up with the free cash flow that we can expect over these next 10 years. And so you'll see those down here. And that's one of the big parts of getting the changes in working capital, which we did at the bottom of the previous tab. All of this is essentially going to help us come up with the net present value of these cash flows. And then we're going to add that to the net present value of the terminal value, which is of course going to come from this terminal discount rate and the terminal free cash flow growth rate that we've selected. So all of that is going to help us determine whether we should buy, sell, or hold. So I'm actually going to need to pull up the balance sheet again. So we're going to need the debt, which is going to be right here, 111,601. And then the cash, we can see here, 8589. And then we're just going to look up Nvidia shares outstanding. That was not the correct year. So we'll say approximately 2480. And then the current share price will tell us 153.30. And so you can see, as expected, the implied share value is going to be around $893. Tremendous upside. And obviously the decision here is going to be to buy. There's a lot more analysis that can go into it, but this is just a quantitative look at why we might buy. And I would agree, probably smart to buy Nvidia.
Sweet, that's all for today. Let me know what you guys thought and if there's another company you'd want me to look at, and I'll add it to the list. See you next time.